What's up, YouTube? This is Chris, aka Barnon11970. Thank you as always for checking out my video. And today we are going to do some learning. So if it's all possible, if you have any friends or family, those non-believer types who basically will believe everything that the mainstream media tells them, I want you to watch this video because we're going to do a comparison to a near event called Operation Northwoods and the Malaysian flight that supposedly got shot down just a couple of days ago. Now, I am not going to sit here and say I know all the answers. I'm not going to guarantee that this happened. But what we are doing, and it seems that there are some people out there who don't seem to understand this, is all we're doing is raising questions and bringing up alternative possibilities. In any investigation, they're always looking for multiple possibilities. They can't just say, oh, here's the aha moment, unless they found the smoking gun. So I'm going to post a link. There are many links that you can Google. Just Google the term Operation, and it's one word, Northwoods. It's not two separate words, it's one word. But I'm going to read one of the articles that describes it, and you're going to see an eerie similarity between what they were planning in the 1960s to try and start a war with Cuba, which actually went as high as the Secretary of Defense, to what happened or possibly happened a couple of days ago. So here we go. Let's read one of the articles, and I will post the link in the description below. All right. This is going to basically tell you what Operation Northwoods was all about. Okay. Operation Northwoods was a series of false flag proposals that originated within the Department of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States government in 1962. The proposals, which called for the CIA or other operatives to commit acts of terrorism in U.S. cities and elsewhere, they were rejected by the Kennedy administration. So this is our own government running by the CIA and other operatives to commit terrorism on their own country. So people who think this doesn't happen, like you see in the cover page, unclassified documents that were signed as high up as the Joint Chiefs of Staff. All right, so let's continue. At the time of the proposal, Cuba had recently become communist under Fidel Castro. The operation proposed creating public support for war against Cuba by blaming it for terrorist acts. Let's see. Who are they trying to blame this Malaysian flight bombing on? They're trying to blame it on Russia. Seems a little similar yet again. All right, but let's continue. To this end, Operation Northwoods proposals recommended hijackings and bombings, followed by the introduction of phony evidence that would implicate the Cuban government. And it stated, the desired result from the execution of this plan would be to place the United States in apparent position of suffering defensible grievances from a rash and irresponsible government of Cuba. You could change the word to Russia here if you want. And to develop an international image of a Cuban threat to peace in the Western Hemisphere. Several other proposals were included within Operation Northwoods, including real or simulated actions against various U.S. military and civilian targets. The operation recommended developing a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area and in other Florida cities, and even in Washington, end quote. The plan was drafted by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, signed by Chairman Lyman Lemnitzer, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Lemnitzer, and sent to the Secretary of Defense. So it went up pretty high. Although part of the U.S. government's anti-communist Cuban project, Operation Northwoods, was never officially accepted, it was authorized by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but then rejected by President John F. Kennedy. According to the current release documentation, none of the operations became active under the auspices of Operation Northwoods proposals. The main proposal was presented in, let's skip. Okay, here we go. We'll go to the content. In response to pretext for military intervention by the chiefs of operation of the Cuban project, Brigadier General Edward Lansdale, the document that listed methods and outlined plans that the authors believed would garner public and international support for U.S. military intervention in Cuba. All right, the plan called for U.S. personnel to disguise themselves as agents of the Cuban government and to engage in terrorist attacks on the U.S. So pay attention to that. The CIA and other government agencies of the United States were making plans to dress up as Cuban agents and create terrorist attacks against their own people and their own country. So let's continue. The plan called, they planned to engage terrorist attacks on the U.S. base at Guantanamo Bay. It also called for terrorist attacks within the United States that would be conducted by pro-U.S. forces disguising themselves as Cuban agents. According to the documents, the plan called for the following. Number one, since it would seem desirable to use legitimate provocation as the basis for U.S. military intervention in Cuba, a cover and deception plan to include requisite preliminary actions such as the developed response to Task 33C, I don't know what that is, could be executed as an initial effort to provoke Cuban reactions. Harassment plus deceptive actions to convince the Cubans of imminent invasion would be emphasized. Our military posture through execution of the plan would allow a rapid change from exercise. Notice how they say exercise. You notice I've talked about that in the Craigslist ads. They call it an exercise. To intervention if Cuban response justifies. Number two, a series of well-coordinated incidents. There are no accidents. Will be planned to take place in and around Guantanamo to give genuine appearance of being done by hostile Cuban forces. So they put in A, incidents to establish a credible attack. No, not in chronological order. 1. Start rumors, many, using clandestine radio. 2. Land friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence to stage an attack on the base. 3. Capture Cuban-friendly saboteurs inside the base. 4. Start riots near the base main gate. Friendly Cubans. 5. Blow up ammunition inside the base. Start fires. 6. Burn aircraft on the air base. Sabotage. 7. Lob mortar shells from outside of base into base. Some damage to installations. 8. Capture assault teams approaching from the sea or vicinity of Guantanamo City. 9. Capture militia groups which storm the base. 10. Sabotage ship in harbor, large fires. 11. Sink ship near harbor entrance. Conduct funerals for mock victims. Interesting that they say that. All right, and then on subject B, United States would respond by executing offensive operations to secure water and power supplies, destroying artillery and mortar emplacements which threaten the base. C. Commence large-scale United States military operations. You starting to get this yet? But let's continue. 3. A remember the Maine incident could be arranged in several forms. If you ever know about the sinking of the Maine, I think it was in the 1800s. It was basically to incite violence there and start revolutions and the ability to create war. People cheer it. Let's go A. We could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba. B, here we go. Pay very close attention to this. This one's going to be very similar to what's going on now. We could blow up a drone. Now, meanwhile, this is in the early 1960s. They already have drones because they specifically say this. We could blow up a drone, an unmanned vessel, anywhere in the Cuban waters. We could arrange to cause such incident in the vicinity of Havana or Santiago as a spectacular result of a Cuban attack from the air or sea or both. The presence of Cuban planes or ships merely investigating the intent of this vessel could be fairly compelling evidence that the ship was taken under attack. The nearness to Havana or Santiago would add credibility, especially to those people who might have heard the blast or have seen the fire. The United States could follow up with an air-sea rescue operation covered by U.S. fighters to evacuate remaining members of the non-existent crew. Casualty lists in the U.S. newspapers could have a helpful wave of national indignation. All right, so I'm going to stop there. So this is something that was planned and got as high as the Kennedy administration, where JFK declined to allow this to happen. But they've been talking about these kind of things since the 1960s. Google it and find out for yourself. Now again, I'm not suggesting this is what happened with the Malaysian flight. But what I'm saying is, you cannot dismiss things unless you have 100% proof. And all we're hearing from the media and from the politicians is, this is what happened. No one is even questioning or even bringing up Operation Northwoods. No one is actually questioning, well, the Malaysian flight that disappeared, it's the same exact flight. Could that be it? What's wrong with asking questions? I think you should too. So you can think whatever you want. My job here is not to make you think in a certain way. It's to show alternative possibilities. Don't you wish the mainstream media and your politicians throughout the world would give you that choice? You might want to start questioning why. Thanks for watching. Peace.